brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar, strawberries on a summer evening. Baby, you're the end of June. I want your belly and that summer feeling, getting washed away in you. Breathe me in, breathe me out. I don't know if I could ever go without watermelon sugar high, 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 watermelon sugar high. I just wanna taste it, I just wanna taste it, watermelon sugar high. Tastes like strawberries on a summer evening.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Weigh In. Wonderful scenes coming in from around the country as we enjoyed another stellar weekend of racing. There's lots to get through today, of course, because we've got both Saturday and Sunday to review, and to go through that with me is my co-host Michael Guerin. And Michael, we're lucky to have you back with us because I understand you were on the West Coast over the weekend.
Yeah, fair to say I'm glad the show wasn't yesterday, Emily. It was enormous fun at Kumara. Big hi to everybody watching around the country. Hope you got to go racing over the weekend. Different type of racing from Ellerslie, from what you and I are probably more used to, closer to our homes. Fantastic, lots of fun. So glad that circuit still exists. We'll have that among today's highlight packages. Some really interesting racing out of Ellerslie because a lot of it points forward, including a suspension we absolutely have to talk about. And in the third segment today, stick around, we have Lindsay, the boss from Cambridge Stud, telling us why we're not allowed to go down to the new Heritage Centre. And then when he told me, it made perfect sense.
Love it. Looking forward to all of that later on in the show. To kick things off, let's go to Ellerslie for a start in the form of the Taupo Gingerna Salva Stakes, where White Noise was the winner.
Making up ground in between runners as well. Regazzo in for gold at the 250. White Noise is coming after us strongly though. Out wider to Porto Pitti and then Like It Sweet. White Noise ranged up to Regazzo. And behind them RJ's Flight to Porto Pitti. It's White Noise, Regazzo trying to go with it. Then RJ's Flight. White Noise just in front from Regazzo as they go to the post, and White Noise will beat Regazzo. Third, RJ's Flight. Fourth over was Porto Pitti, then Ozark.
It was a lovely staying performance by White Noise, who's been around the mark in the past couple of runs and got the job done for the Baker Fallsman team. And when you think of Derby and a stayer, Baker Fallsman name just pops right into your mind, and White Noise looks like a nice chance for them.
Yeah, pretty well performed horse already, Emily. Lovely ride here by Ryan Elliott. I think he had the option at the 600 to go wider, and on a favourite it would be really easy to do that because you don't want to be unlucky. He chose to stay in and then come between horses, which was a brave move. I probably would have won anyway, but it was a lovely ride. He did a fantastic job. Second horse, Regazzo, was very good. The oddity of the race is the same oddity as the week before on the Auckland Guineas. They're going so slow in these races. Like they went 2:13.8 there for 2100 metres. That's about 6 seconds behind an even gallop, or 5 seconds behind standard time. And at some stage, Jim, these horses are going to get to an Avondale Guineas or a Waikato Guineas, and they're going to need to go a lot faster. I think a lot of our trainers are going to be happy to see some tempo turn up in those races, because heading to a Derby, they're not going to go 6-7 seconds outside standard time then. But the winner really good. As you said, from a stable we knows how to train Derby. Well, it's by El Rocker. I guess you would sort of presume El Rockers aren't natural Derby horses, but he's by Fastnet Rock, and of course Fastnet Rock side the Derby winner last year. So he's one of the few horses in my mind who's stood up as a Derby horse so far, so I'm surprised he's still $14. When you look at this, it's a deep enough Derby, but there's outside Dark Destroyer the week before, Emily. I don't get the feeling that a horse has stood up and said, hey, I'm a huge Derby chance. I think there's a lot of horses in the mix, but Yeah, as you can see by it being $10, it's quite a confused Derby market.
Yeah, I wonder if some of the girls might bring the class factor this year. We saw that match-up between the Perfect Pink and Le Creek, and perhaps they can bring that sort of element into it. And obviously, just to note there around the number 38 Nest Egg, who was a winner at Aupuni on Saturday, and I know the Royden Burgesson team have indicated that's the goal, and good to get the campaign off to a winning start. I think it was over 1,400 on Saturday, so a nice start for them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are waiting for the Derby winner, favourite, dominator to turn up. And I'm not saying it's not going to be Dark Destroyer. The indications are, well, On the Bubbles won't go there. It's in the market. It won't be going. Paranui Bay, we have heard from Tony Pike, is unlikely to go at this stage. So I think there's a lot of shaking out to be done here. But I agree with you on the fillies. You wouldn't be scared to set up the Perfect Pink or one of those horses for the Derby. Amaralinia almost ran last year. At this stage, it's not scary, but the two big lead-up races are next month, obviously, the Waikato Guineas and the Avondale Guineas. We'll know a lot more by then. That race, obviously named after Ginger Nuts. Well, at this stage of the season, he was mucking around in rating 65s, and he only emerged as a Derby horse in the Avondale Guineas. So it might be one of those derbies. I would be very careful backing into that market. But I think White Noise is a horse, they're setting him for the race. Andrew Forsman said that yesterday. He'll be there. And on the dam side, he's out of a Sir Percy mare. So you would think that will help him get out to the 2,400.
It all changes, doesn't it, when they get up over the 2,000 metres and beyond. We also saw a nice performance in race number 5 by Le Creek, who also featured in that Derby market. This is Le Creek in the Perfect Pink going at it up the straight in race 5.
Here's the Perfect Pink joining in down the outside. River Plate still there on the inside. The Perfect Pink ranged up to Lake Creek, who tries to go with her. Over on the inside is River Plate. The Perfect Pink in front. It's a confident looking Opie Bosson. Trying hard. Lake Creek on the inside. Coming at it again. Got up. Lake Creek. Lake Creek has beaten the Perfect Pink. Third over River Plate and fourth at the line. Then we had...
I thought this was a really gutsy effort, Michael, because as you can see from that replay, clearly headed up the straight. Le Creek and was able to fight back and just didn't lay down to be able to get up and score. And I noticed as well by the up-and-coming siren, Varamoso, another really nice sort of tie-in there for heading forward for breeders. But I guess as well in second spot, the Perfect Pink, you'd be thinking has plenty of improvement. So it's an interesting matchup between these two.
There is a lot to unpack out of this race, as they say, Emily. So there's the Perfect Pink hitting the lead. La Creek's done a super job to get back past. When you consider she's the 1,000 guineas winner. So just on La Creek, the Alexanders had an option on the horse somebody was trying to buy her after she ran second to Ballon Rouge fresh up. And they decided, whether they or the owners, to keep the horse. Smart move. She's worth a lot more now. And she's obviously probably going to get an Oaks distance or a Derby if they want to head that way. Just a lovely, lovely filly. Really gutsy, fast, great advertisement for Vadamos. So she's a good horse. I think the Perfect Pink peaked on its run.
Yeah.
But as much as I don't want to detract from the winner, for me that wasn't the story of the race. What's really bizarre here is Opie copped 6 days for his ride on the Perfect Pink. Now, why he copped 6 days was for hitting the horse in consecutive strides. So he didn't hit the horse a lot, but he hit it twice behind the saddle in consecutive strides. Now, the rules say you can't do that. You have to hit it every second stride. Now, that means he misses the ride on Entree Villiers in the Telegraph this Saturday, which you will already know. Michael McNabb has the ride, and Opie shouldn't have a different set of rules from most other people, either should the leading riders. But if that was a suspendable offence, then this has become total nonsense. Forget the fact he's our leading rider. We just keep putting these good riders out, Vinnie Colgan, Opie, in prime times of the year for offences which are nonsensical. Now, I love horses, and I would hate to think that people were overhitting horses. And all of us would. You obviously more so because you're a horse person. So would Opie. He's not a big whip rider. But a decent fine would be okay. But to have Opie or any other jockey who's a senior jockey, who's not an inexperienced apprentice who needs to be told off and told how to ride properly, to be suspended for 6 days, in my belief for that, is totally ridiculous. Now, to talk you through it, Opie admitted the charge because you can't argue. It's there on video. We saw that. He went behind the saddle twice in consecutive strides. I spoke to him about it today, so he admitted the charge. And the stewards, to their credit, said this should be a fine, should not be a suspension. But the JCA decided it should be a 6-day suspension. That's a bad decision. That's a bad decision. I know what the rules are there for, but we now have got to this stage, in my belief, that if we're going to keep putting people out for this consecutive whip use, a jockey's almost better raising his arm above his head and hitting a horse harder once every 3 strides, which is what we don't want to see, than the little love taps Opie gave that. We've got a real issue with this now, because if the JCA and the Racing Integrity Unit are going to, or Racing Integrity Board, are going to employ people to count whip strides, then we've lost the conversation. We should be skilled enough at that level to look at a ride and say, you've hit that too many times and too hard, and therefore we're going to call you in the room, or you've ridden that pretty fairly. Now, I've watched enough races, and that's nothing wrong with that ride. That's just absolute rubbish. But if there's mandatory sentences for hitting a horse consecutive strides, so be it. But that doesn't deserve to cost you a Group 1, probably winning ride on Entrevier this week. It's just wrong. We've got this wrong. And once the JCA starts employing people to count whip strides, that's ridiculous. Because the people they're employing won't know what they're looking at. This has not just made me annoyed, it's made me angry, not because Opie's your husband or because Opie is also our leading rider. This is what people do for a job. This is their livelihoods. And if you're taking that away from them for something as farcical as that, on the favourite in a tight finish. Now, once in a while, the stewards and the JCA should pull people in and say, that's not on, mate, pull your head in. But if we're going to suspend our star athletes for that, then we have got this more wrong than any other sport in the world, because there's no sport in the world that suspends their star athletes for doing something which simply shouldn't be an offence at all. It's infuriating. The decisions are wrong. I applaud the stewards for asking for a fine, but we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot with this. We've lost control of the conversation around the whip. The people who don't want the whip in racing, that's fine. I have nothing against animal welfare people. They are trying to do the best by the animals, that's fine. But they don't want racing full stop. So reducing it to non-consecutive strides for whip use isn't going to make them any happier. And if they do want the whip gone, which is a separate conversation, then 8 strokes or 4 strokes or 2 strokes inside the 200 or whatever farcical rule we're going to put up isn't going to make them happy either. But us saying that hitting a horse 2 consecutive strides for a senior jockey is worse than somebody hitting it 16 times but in 32 strides is just complete bullshit. And until we get this right, we're going to keep putting our best athletes on the sideline at a time of the year when we shouldn't do it. No other sport in the world does this nonsensical stuff. And we're handing the conversation to, first of all, people who don't care about racing anyway and horse welfare, and we're handing it to the JCA, who should know better. They should be able to look at that and think, that's offensive, that shouldn't have happened, or that's not. And if anybody in racing who watches a lot of races can tell me that was offensive to their eye, well, then you're watching the wrong channel and you're definitely watching the wrong show. I don't care the fact that Opie's your husband about this. I don't care that I would loosely class him as a friend. That's a bad decision.
Yep.
I know you can't say much about it. I fully respect that. But it's a bad decision, and the difficult part is you can't argue. And if you argue, you get more days, and you would have missed the Karaka Million. As I said, I'm fuming about it because I watched the race live and didn't even consider it. When I saw the stewards report, I was like, how do we get in these situations all the time?
I think it was 4 strikes in the entire race, but 2 in a row, obviously. Anyway, it's I can't really comment on it with the conflict of interest, but we do have to move on.
There's nothing more to say because you know what? Everybody knows it's silly.
Yeah.
What the jockeys need to do now is get together with some proper leadership and someone who can speak English and talk properly and actually talk the language these lawyers talk in and say, we can't do this all the time. You can't keep doing this to us. Unless they fight back, they're going to keep getting railroaded and losing their jobs. And it pisses me off.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's move on because we do have to get into race number 7. It was one of the open handicaps, and Taupo was the winner of this one in a tidy performance.
By short fuse, Irish girl out deeper with Taupo, then Mega Bourbon at the 250. It's the mitigator tackled by Run to Perfection. Taupo is looking to warm up, and behind the Monaco's running on. So too is Mega Bourbon. It's Run to Perfection tackled and headed by Taupo. Running after them late, Mega Bourbon. Taupo in front from Run to Perfection and Mega Bourbon. Taupo too good. Taupo beat Its run to perfection. Third over was Mega Bourbon, and then came...
This horse is putting together a really good record, Michael. I was just looking back, 4 wins in its past 7, and open handicap victory yesterday, and really nice for the Moroni Gerard team.
Yeah, spoke to Pam this morning, Pam Gerard, and she said, look, maybe the Westbury's coming around too quickly. That's obviously Karaka Million night, which is now 12 days away. She's going to ask Gordon Cunningham, who's an immensely popular guy from Curramore who owns the horse, and so many people will be thrilled to see Gordy have a really good horse in his own, his own ownership. They're thinking maybe a little bit too quick. There's lots of options for a horse like this, but gee, it'd be tempting to get that black type. Be really tempting for Gordy. Good horse. Only carried a lightweight. And the tempo off the front from the mitigator was good enough that back of midfield was the place to be. But you can just look at them. That's clearly a pretty decent type of horse who's got black type somewhere in her future. So came home in 33.6. That's pretty quick when you're coming off the rails.
Yeah, it certainly is. So next up, we look at Not a Bad Harada, who took out the other open handicap on the card. It was early in the day, race number 1, and it was a nice victory in a small field for Not a Bad Harada.
And last is Buffont at the 300 metres. Spine Tingle still in front here. Leads a length and a half now from Royal Performer being called upon. Hit the road, Jack. Not a Bad Harada starting to appear. One off the rail. It's still Spine Tingle. Not a Bad Harada. Out wide. Hit the road, Jack. Not a Bad Harada ranged up to Spine Tingle. And Not a Bad Harada and Darren Dennis go on to score in the first. Second, Spine Tingle. Third, Hit the road, Jack.
Wasn't really the punter's favourite in the race. I think ended up paying a little over the $10 mark, but got up to a tidy victory. And Michael, when you actually look back at the form, had been racing in some quite nice races, including the Manawatu Cup and the Waikato Cup, and found a very winnable race here.
Yeah, and look, probably a bit of a grinder, has tended to be running on more in races than settling handy to the speed here, but just out-grinded them, just kept going at the same speed. I'm not sure it went any faster for Darren Dennis. I think the other horses just went slower. So, good performance. Chris Faulkner's done a good job with the horse. Raced predominantly in Australia, most of its career. Came home here, has won 3 races in very different situations since coming home. I would suggest that Karaka Stayers Cup coming up would be the ideal, perfect race for it too. And good to see Darren Dennis get a nice win at Ellerslie along with Chris. So good on them. Royal Performer, not much fun for the punters. Joe lost his iron on the left-hand side. So maybe willing to forgive, but I'm not sure how much that unbalanced the horse. I'm not quite sure. I think it's a better horse with one run at them late, Royal Performer, than coming wide. But when you're on the favourite, you're probably going to put it in the race. So maybe willing to forgive on the favourite.
Awesome stuff. And then we head to the Karaka Million picture in the 2-year-old race coming in from Ellerslie. And this one was taken out by Fellini. Wasn't the favourite of the Tiaka runners, but Fellini did the job in the Tangerine.
The rail, Gibraltar Rising looks to run on, and behind them, further out there is Foodie Brothers at the 200 metres. Alabama Gold, Time Flies, still has a bit to offer on the inside. Now Fellini's joining them on the outside. He's no good thing, this is a short price favourite. It's now Alabama Gold, Fellini, Time Flies. Alabama Gold tackled by Fellini on the outside, and Fellini will go on and score. Alabama Gold second. Third over was Time Flies, and then followed by Gibraltar.
Well, as I highlighted, it wasn't the favourite of the Jamie Richards runners, but just this horse seems to be professional. Goes out there, does the job, steps it up and records another win. I guess a disappointment for Time Flies, who was the short-priced favourite.
And had every chance, Time Flies. On the winner, obviously 2 starts, 2 wins, and by Bellado, who had a really good hour yesterday, the Hanui Farm Stallion, because Bella Luce came out and won the next race, who's another of the Bellados. That's really helpful heading to the sales. Hit the line hard, you would suggest, is going to turn up in the Karaka Million and do the same. Whether it's got the class to win a Karaka Million, I'm not sure, but it's maybe not the most scary Karaka Million we've ever had at this stage.
Yeah.
Second horse, really good. Really, really good sitting outside Time Flies. And Time Flies, I thought, it never looked like it was going to win. It led, it raced a touchdown, maybe. They're thinking about riding it further back in the field, so Time Flies may be ridden differently if it makes the Karaka Million.
Yeah.
By the way, Tiaka have secured 5 jockeys for the Karaka Million, so they have potentially 5 horses. Those 5 jockeys will be Opie, who can ride even though he's suspended because it comes back off that day. Jonathan Parks, Sam Weatherly, Craig Grills, and one other is going to be riding for Tiaka. So they've got 5 jockeys sorted. Jamie Richards can probably tell us a bit more about whether they have a decision on who is on who.
Yeah, and speaking of Jamie Richards, he joins us on the phone now. And Jamie, a very warm welcome into the show, and congratulations with the victory of Fellini. How's Fellini come through that run? Oh, unfortunately, I think we just lost the line to Jamie, so we'll hold fire with that question. We'll wait to see.
It's an interesting decision they've got to make in, because obviously Opie is the number one rider, and I don't know, we'll ask Jamie, I'm not sure they have a number one horse yet.
No.
And this time of
what
year,
it seems, doesn't it?
Maybe you can find out from him.
Yep, let's try again. Jamie, very warm welcome to the show. Congrats with Fellini. How did the horse come through the run?
Yeah, he's good. Trotted up well this morning. Morning, guys. Just give him a few quiet days around the stable now, and crack on. 13 days time.
Talk us through the runners, because from a punter's perspective, geez, it's open. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Who's your standout at this stage?
I think we've got an even lineup. Hard to say one over the other. I think the horses are well, I sort of get the gut feeling that they're starting to peak at the right time. Staff are doing a wonderful job with them. And we've taken them along quietly and had the kid gloves on, but we're about ready to take those off.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Jamie. Do you have any idea who's going to ride who at this stage?
No confirmation there yet. We'll just get through the next few days and have a bit of a chat to Dave, and we'll let the owners know, and then Karen will put out a press release, and we'll do it that way. But I sort of asked Dave what his gut feeling was yesterday. He said we don't need to make any decisions today, so we'll just go through that in the next couple of days, and then we can make some plans from there. Sit down, have a bit of a team talk, and just get a bit of a feel for what the boss wants to do.
So, Jamie, you've got 5 riders who are set for the Te Akau horses if they all line up. Obviously, Opie is one, Jonathan Parks, I believe, Sam Weatherly, Craig Grills. Who's the other rider you have secured if you do get 5 into the race?
Matt Cameron will do the other one.
Okay, so time flies. Initially, to the eye, looked disappointing, Jamie. Is it a horse who may be better ridden off the speed a touch?
Well, that's what we hope. At face value, very disappointing. He was better last time at Pukekohe, I thought. But I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. I think the horse, we've obviously got to try something different, and I think something different that we will try is riding him back. He's been really good in his work at home, but has sort of lacked a bit of a turn of foot at the races, and whether he's not completely at home going right-handed either. At times he's sort of lugged out a little bit. But for $1 million, we've got to get him up there and have a crack. Full set of blinkers will go on, and we'll just ride him a little bit more neutral and give him something to chase, and hopefully that's going to work the Oracle, because he is a nice horse.
Jamie, on the bubbles is now odds on for the Karaka Classic Mile. How is he? And I believe he may be one of the horses trialling at Matamata on Wednesday. I believe you're taking quite a good bunch there.
Yep, we are. Spoke to NZTR and the club, and they sort of kindly agreed to have a set a nice trial on the grass. It's something that we're severely lacking in New Zealand at the moment, is trials on grass tracks. I understand that we are a bit shorter tracks and everything like that, but it is becoming a real headache getting horses to the races when we can't trial. But that's a discussion for another time. But on the bubbles is going well. He trials here on Wednesday with a few other horses that are heading to Karaka Million night, and happy with him. He seems to be going well.
And Jamie, just back to yesterday's action from Ellerslie, and of course the perfect pink we saw just going down by a nostril there to Le Creek. He must have been pretty happy. That was obviously a return to the races, having not been seen since November. So a good starting point. Yeah,
for sure. Great way to kick things off. Look, she looked like the winner, probably just pegged on her run late a little bit and then ran around a bit. But she's getting ready for, bigger things. It's hard to have them completely screwed down first up when you want them to improve throughout their preparation, and you're trying to go 1.5 miles in March. You don't want to be sort of too hard on them, second week of January. So there's natural improvement there. She'll have a little bit of a quiet time now. She won't be seen again until the 12th of February, where she'll run in the Boss's race, and she'll probably have a little trial beforehand.
And obviously there's 2 options for you, isn't it? There's a Derby and an Oaks. Can you give punters any indication as to which one you'd be favouring, or just see how things unfold?
I think Tony's really keen to have a crack at the Filly of the Year series. So we were in a similar position last year with Amaralina, and I think the boss made the right call to keep her against her own sex and age there, and that's what we'll do with the Perfect Pink again this year. So she'll go to Taupo, then she'll either run at Ellerslie in the Sunline or go to Hastings for the Lowland and then into the Oaks. And you know, if all goes well, we might even be able to look at Australia if she's really going well.
Jamie, Entrevier was absolutely stunning in the railway coming out of Ellerslie. Telegraph's 5 days away. How is she?
She's good. Yep, did some nice work Saturday. Everything's sort of gone according to plan, apart from Opie getting suspended yesterday. But look, these things happen from time to time. So Michael McNabb will ride her in the Telegraph, and Michael's ridden Group 1 winners for us before. Certainly looking forward to him having a sit on Trevier there on Saturday.
When do we see the horse of the year, Probabile, back for a bit of a spin in public?
She's Wednesday, trials. Then she'll fly to Melbourne on the 26th. She'll have a Flemington jump out on the 4th, and then she'll run on the 12th in the Jeffrey Balmain, the race that she kicked off in last year. Jeffrey Balmain, Futurity, All-Star Mile, and then we'll make some plans from there.
And Jamie, just finally, before we let you go, obviously Bright Blue Sky, looking forward to her coming up this weekend in the Magic Millions. What did you make of that track gallop there on Saturday at the Gold Coast?
Thought the gallop was okay without being outstanding. Would have loved to have seen her finish off a little bit better, but she was galloping with an old, seasoned sort of horse that, knows that course inside and out and probably handles the soft ground a little bit better than we do. Still ran nice time, but she's sort of beaten half a length there. So I think she needed it. A nice forecast for the Gold Coast this week will be a big help to her. I think, like most Fastnet rocks, she does appreciate the better ground. If we draw a gate, we're a chance. But she's going to have to be at her very best. Coolangatta is going to be awfully hard to beat, but we're there. And her run at Doomben was pretty good. So we've got the last spot there, number 16. Ashley's over there doing a wonderful job with her. And we're looking forward to the weekend.
All right, JB, away from the track, how is your partner and patient, Danielle Johnson, handling being stuck at home and not being able to ride and not being able to walk around much? How's she a week after her fall?
Yeah, Dee's good. She's, in a fair bit of pain there and on some heavy medication, which then sort of makes her pretty tired, and she's going to have to take things really quietly for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But she's a trooper and gets her, chin up and gets on with it. So Annabelle and I have been sharing the nursing duties. She's up in Auckland at the moment with Mum, but she'll be back down here later in the week.
Awesome stuff, Jamie. Well, a big thank you for coming on the show this morning, and we look forward to watching Bright Blue Sky this weekend. Obviously, of course, Entrevier coming up as well.
Thanks, guys.
Great to get Jamie Richards on the show.
Lots of updates, lots of information.
Lots to digest from that, isn't there?
It's almost a case of not what good horses not to talk about. We didn't even talk about Emeralina. So on Wednesday, I'm sure Trackside will have coverage of it. Some
Love
really
Racing.
strong,
you can find the list.
Yeah, really strong group run trials, and they'll be key pointers for horses like on the Bubbles, Emeralina, who's going to turn up in the Westbury. Most importantly, out of that, Danielle's okay. She's at home with her mum, which is probably the safest place to be. Been looked after really well, and we're hoping we see her back at the track sooner rather than later. But as Jamie said, she is a trooper. Yeah,
she most definitely is. We're going to get you off to a break here on Wayne, and we leave you with our maiden of the week, and it's a special one this week. It's Pahi Lass, who was a first victory for trainer Chloe Cummings.
Homeward bound, 400 metres to go, many chances here. And the leader, Rising Risk, out wide here. We've got Pahi Lass running on. Down the extreme outside, Cruisy Lass is warming up as well. And behind these then we've got Go Fiona as they get to the 200 metres. Pahi Lass made the lead. Running on the outside here is Cruisy Lass, and through on the inside, Go Fiona's getting out late. But Pahi Lass is home. Shut the gate, Pahi Lass won it. Well done to part owner and trainer of Pahi Lass and Chloe Cumming. I'm pretty sure this will be her first training success.
Running down to the riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your left-hand man. I love you when you're singing that song, and I got a lump in my throat.
Brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
You're back with us on Weigh In, and now it's time to get into the action from our pony. And of course, we enjoyed the Martin Cup. It was certainly a race that we enjoyed watching, and it was a victory over the line for our Hail Mary, who was a winner for Alan Sharrock.
Goes to Segundo. Our Hail Mary 2 lengths behind these. You Are a Star starting to run on now. Here it is, Sir Nate. Segundo the inside. Our Hail Mary's trying to pick them up, at House of Cartier's coming after them as well. Our Hail Mary's got to the lead. House of Cartier's going to try and flash at it, but our Hail Mary today, our Hail Mary will beat House of Cartier, and I think You Are a Star.
Geez, that was tough, Michael. I know Alan had sort of in the instructions to Jonathan Parks said she's going to hit a flat spot, don't panic, just ride her through it and she'll keep on giving. And that's pretty much exactly how it unfolded. And she was able to get a win. A really interesting family connection, because our Hail Mary is out of a full sister to She's Sensational. And of course, House of Cartier is a daughter of She's Sensational. So a really nice family connection there for Alan as well.
And Alan was really good with the punters and the media. He told them the truth. He said, I don't think Waisaki's got any chance in this race, and I think our Hail Mary can win. That's why information is really important. She won well. He did say he's likely, I spoke to him this morning, to now send her to the paddock. Now, I thought for certain she would go to Trentham, because she won the Trentham Stakes there last year. He said, no, we're thinking paddock. And then maybe the Taranaki Cup further down the line. I do realise a lot of horses this time of year, they're just starting to get a little bit either tired or the hard tracks are getting to some of them. She's Sensational was outstanding with the big weight. She's just a beautiful mare who tries really hard.
House of Cartier.
It's okay.
She's
Sensational is also a good mare.
I was going to say she is a good mare. Yeah, that's
like
true.
mother, like daughter. I also said to Alan, what do you make of Wasaki? He said, no, he's fine. He'll be fine for the Wellington Cup. Like, you have to have a lot of faith in a trainer to believe that was okay, because it ran second last and looked about as one pace as you could possibly see. So what he's told me this morning, he has the option to change his mind. I don't want to put you off, but do not back our Hail Mary, because...
Is the Auckland Cup an option?
He said Taranaki Cup.
Okay.
I wasn't going to argue with him. He's a redhead. I try not to argue with people with red hair at the best of times. Waisaki, he reckons, is on target. I'm going to have to believe him. So until otherwise proven, Waisaki is now, according to that, from what we know, the favourite for the Wellington Cup. Be very, very careful with that market. Yeah, that's the only thing I can say, because she's apparently not going, and the favourite ran second last.
Next up, we have a little look at the open handicaps, and Wild Moose was successful in race number 5 for Lisa Latter, and another nice performance here by Wild Moose to take out to the Kelvin Woodmas Memorial.
Go back to the inside, and then Aotea Lad, who's starting to punch on pretty well. Here it is, Wild Moose still in front. Lana Cord out wide, starting to appear now. She's coming quickly. Colorado Star also runs on, and on the inside, Aotea Lad, but Wild Moose in front, and a special one for Lisa Allpress to the line will win and win well. Lana Cord, I don't know, third, no rock, no proper rock.
Wild Moose is a very deceiving horse, isn't it? Because just sort of, again, a little bit like our Hail Mary, hits that flat spot and you think, oh, it's going to run a battling 4th or 5th, and then just keeps maintaining that gallop all the way to the line and sort of outgrinds the rest of the field to get up and score. And I know this one was a pretty special one for Lisa Allpress. You can see that after the line here with the celebration, because her partner, Carl, his grandfather, passed away during the week, and she wore the black armband in memory of him. He was 94 and unfortunately passed away due to cancer. So it was a really fitting win to be able to see Lisa get up on Wild Moose. Yeah,
and she also knew Kelvin Woodmas, who the race was named after. So a lot of emotion involved in that for Lisa, and it's great to see those things. It's great to be able to pay tribute to people you care about in those moments. When you're as good a rider as Lisa Allpress, you get the opportunity to do that because you ride so many winners. Horse is a pretty good horse. He was a good horse last year. That was a lovely scene there from Lisa. Good horse last year, improved this year. He's got better. Spoke to Lisa Latter this morning. He is heading to the Thorndon.
Okay.
It's going to be a tough Thorndon, but not brutal. Now, with the Thorndon, obviously Too Illicit is not nominated, but Roger James told us on the show last week that's where they're now thinking about going. So they're thinking Amaralinia is not going to the Thorndon.
Okay.
So scratch that. It is not going. It is going to the Westbury on Karaka Million night. So a few of these others, Pre-Defer is going. Mallaston, they were considering going. Wild Moose is in the mix, whether it's a weight for age Thorndon horse. I guess we'll find out. Spoke to Pam Gerard this morning. Harlech is going. I would suggest for punters, Harlech is the value in this market at $21. It should be about $10. If you feel like having a bet in this race, that is the horse you should be backing, because to elicit, again, not nominated, so it's not certain to be turning up. Out of that race at Awapuni, Lana called really good.
Yeah,
finishing
really,
second.
really good.
Last 600, quickest of the race, clearly.
Can't wait to see her up over a bit more ground.
Yeah, she's your perfect carnival horse, you would think. And she's only had the 2 wins in her career because she's raced so much at the highest level. But I wouldn't be surprised if she has a really good autumn.
Yep, and also just with Wild Moose, the way he wins, I wonder if he's crying out for a little bit more ground, or just the way he gets to the line, he just sort of keeps on
He looks like he's got options, doesn't he?
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
He's just a lovable horse. He just turns up and does the job each week. On Lisa, wouldn't be surprised now with Danielle sidelined and Michael McNabb at the head of the premiership if Lisa made a surge. I can just see her being
within
really
her
determined.
grasp, sort of. Yeah.
Exactly. So and look, she was disappointed last week to not get the call up for Wolverine. That became a 2-jockey war between her and Leith Innes, and Leith, on a known as cool, got that. I wouldn't be surprised if Lisa wins a bunch of races in the next couple of weeks.
Yep, and I talked to Royden Burgesson actually on Friday about Wolverine, and he said she came home from that Eclipse Stakes, ate all her dinner, was squealing coming off the track earlier in the week, so really, really happy with where she is at. So let's get you along to race number 3 from Awapuni. Stumpy was successful in this one. Geez, he's a horse that just keeps on delivering, and he was very honest to get this one.
With Madam Hass one off. They go for home down to this 200 metres here, and Stumpy again. Now Darcy Labella's going to try and come underneath of that. Fibonacci's kicking on well on the inside, and then Scotch. Here it is, Stumpy. Darcy Labella, she's starting to knuckle down and get after him. He's tough though, Stumpy. Darcy Labella on the inside. Wow, heads up, heads down. I'm not sure, Stumpy or Darcy Labella. And then maybe Fibonacci, Madam Hass, Scotch behind.
Well, Darcy Labella was the short-priced favourite in the race for the Alan Sharrock team, and there was a massive weight swing, Mike. I think it was 60 kilos that Stumpy carried and about 54 that Darcy Labella carried. And when you just see them going head-to-head, you'd always think that the lighter-weighted get up and get the victory in a tight finish like that. But no, Stumpy had other ideas.
He's in career best form, Stumpy. He's actually in the market for the Telegraph. Now, I spoke to Kevin Gray this morning, who is always a pleasure to talk to, and he said, nope, no Trentham for us. So he's setting Stumpy for a $40,000 race at Otaki in the middle of next month, which will be on their big race day, their Group 1 race day. He said he doesn't really like Trentham, and he can't work out why, so he's not going to ask him to go attack it, and particularly in a field as strong as this week. Of course, Kevin bred Entre Vieira, so he will have a great interest in the Telegraph, but it will be more as a breeder than as the trainer of Stumpy heading to Otaki. Second horse, Darcy Labella. Alan Sharrock again said, look, maybe a bit of a break and then come back in the autumn. So a couple of those key runners from the Sharrock team this week. They're not planning to go on. Well, they could change their minds. There could be rain in the CD. Things could change, but they're not planning to go on with Darcy Labella right now.
Okay, good stuff. Let's take you to Kumara next. It looked like a great fun day out there on track, and the feature, of course, was the Kumara Gold Nuggets, and it was taken out by an old war horse in Camino Rocoso.
And goes to the lead from Bully Boy, who tries to fight back, but Camino Rocoso broke away. In second, Bully Boy, then Mama Sands blew his chance, but Camino Rocoso, he missed out narrowly in the Greenmouth Cup, but he takes out the Nuggets. Camino Rocoso wins from Bully Boy second.
This horse just continues to surprise me. I've never met a horse who can run so badly and then chuck in such a good one. But now a 13-time winner. I think he's won the Hororata Cup, the Greymouth Cup, the Kumara Gold Nuggets. He's got 2 Group 3 victories. He's run in a New Zealand Derby. He's placed in a Group 2. He's still going around, and still that win on Saturday, he attacked the line. He blitzed his rivals. He's great, isn't he?
He was favourite for the Vodafone Derby at one stage pre-post. It was actually the Derby that Ginger Nuts won, and the Derby that Sacred Elixir, who ran last in that race, was also favourite for at one stage. So they've had a varied careers, Camino Rocoso and Sacred Elixir. Great ride. Beautiful ride. If any rider produced that, you'd be like, wow, that was genius. Because so often he's been a tearaway leader. Last week at Amoto, he missed the kick and then came around the field. Jason just kept him parked away on the fence, didn't move. There was a very hot speed. They broke as much as you can tell if the distance is right and the timing is right, because It's Kumara. They broke 1:48 for 1,810 metres, which is actually sub 2 minutes for 2,000 metres. That's why I'm a little bit not sure that the timing's spot on, but they were going awfully quick. Tucked it away on the inside, didn't move to the right time, just inch perfect. I've never seen that version of Camino Rocoso. I've seen the leader version, and I've seen the come from last version. I've never seen the controlled version. So two of my old friends, Karen and John Parsons, they both had different physical battles over the last little time. So Karen's been a little bit sick. Karen, we're thinking of you, and John. Obviously they can't be at the races at the moment, but I suppose he'll turn up somewhere and do warhorse type things again, but I don't really know what to make of Camino Rocoso. He's just a confusing, wonderful, big, lovely-looking beast of a horse.
Yeah, he is. Who wins when he feels like it. I think that's probably the moral of the story with Camino Rocoso. A man who's been getting around the West Coast circuit and really feeling the hospitality is Fraser Allred. He also enjoyed a couple of wins down at the West Coast Carnival, and he caught up with Michael Guerin over the weekend.
Well, Fraser, here we are at Kumara. How have you enjoyed your first West Coast circuit?
Oh, look, it's been on the bucket list for a long time, no, look, it's absolutely been fantastic.
Probably a place a lot of people consider coming down to, Fraser, to win with wet track horses. It hasn't been that circuit at all, has it?
No, that's right, which we've certainly found out this year. I went back and sort of looked through the last 5 or 6 years, and as you say, but no, the surfaces have been fantastic.
Different type of racing, it seems, through Greymouth and on to Reefton and even today. The horses who handle the smaller tracks seem to like it. Those who don't, Fraser, at the 600 they're gone.
Yes, that's exactly right. Look, I've gone out and walked each track the night before sort of each meeting, and like I say, you've really got to see them to appreciate them for what they are.
What would have inspired you to come down here and put a truckload of horses in for the meetings?
Well, look, it's wonderful. I mean, as you know, with trainers, we don't get much time off or anything like that, but I've been able to bring the kids and the wife along with us sort of thing, and no, we've made a really enjoyable week of it.
Well, now you've done it once with a bit of success, Fraser. Are you keen to come back again?
We'll be back for sure.
Okay. Hospitality, they're pretty hospitable on the West Coast?
Oh, they really are. Look, everyone's been really lovely, and no, it really has made the experience really enjoyable.
Away from that, you've had a couple of decent horses entered for Awapuni at this Saturday meeting there today. Do you have much for the carnival at Trentham?
Yes, look, both of them that are there are basically on trial for the Wellington Cup. They're both sort of in the Wellington Cup at this stage, so no, look, I don't really expect fireworks from them today, but as long as they're hitting the line well, I think we're on track.
A treble for Fraser Allred at Kumara, so 4 wins for the entire carnival. And like a lot of people, it's a bucket list thing to do. He was down there with the family, so I don't think it was that big a social week. He went gold panning at Shantytown. He said that's not going to change his career status much. There wasn't a lot of gold to be found, but just a lot of fun. The clubs down there love having people like him and Kevin Myers supporting them, because otherwise it wouldn't get off the ground. There's not enough horses in the South Island. It's a great circuit. It's fun. Sure, there's some rough old racing sometimes, but Camino Rocoso and Sacred Elixir are good horses, and some of those of Fraser's and Kevin's will come north and kick on with the job. So, yeah, good on Fraser for doing that, and we really appreciated, the West Coasters did, all those North Islanders who supported that circuit, because otherwise we couldn't have the races there, and if racing dies in any region of the country, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, most definitely is. Great to see the crowds on track as well. We're going to get you off to a break, and we leave you with a little bit of a mashup of the undercard from the weekend.
Battling away is Calpurnia, followed further back in the field then by Deep Beauty. It's Clever Conversation in front, holding, leads by a length and a half. Clever Conversation for local trainer Michael Farmer, and Cosy Asano win the Teams Cup.
All About Magic on the outside of Severina. Mama Sands running on. All About Magic, Severina. Then Mama Sands. All About Magic just in front. Severine kicks back on the inside. A nose between them. And going to the lead, Bully Boy. Camino Rocoso down the outside. Bully Boy, Camino Rocoso. Bully Boy in front. Camino Rocoso tries hard, clear of Bluey's chance. In front, Bully Boy. Camino Rocoso, one final lunge. It's Bully Boy for the cup. My World is launching out wider. My World on the outside, moved up to hit the lead. Kapua's got a runner. My World in front. Kapua along the inside, but My World broke away, won the cup. My World beat Kapua.
Today's weigh-in is is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Well, Brendan, a change to the sales format this year with the Karaka sales moving to March. How's that going to work for Cambridge Stud? Are you guys happy with it?
Yeah, well, look, we're really happy because I think, speaking for a lot of New Zealand breeders, we tend to breed staying types rather than sprinters. So it gives our horses another couple of months maybe to get ready for the sales and just grow that little bit more. So we're quite happy with the date. Plus, we'll be able to enjoy Christmas a little bit differently too.
Everybody's saying the same thing. They actually have a chance to have a Christmas rather than being very full on with the yearlings.
Yeah, look, it's really tough, and New Zealand Bloodstock, I think, have done a really good job. I'd hate to be making the decisions. They were sort of forced into it, I guess, in some ways, but they've done the right thing, for the industry, and I'm hoping that everybody will support them as much as we do because, they are our premier sales company. Yes, we'd like our Australian buyers to be here, but if they can't, well, so be it.
I know numbers can change a little bit with some horses' preparations over the next 2 months, but how many horses would Cambridge expect to be taking to Karaka?
I think we've got about 50 in the draft, but a few will drop out. So we'll be selling around about sort of early 40s. And that's a big size draft for us. I mean, any more is hard with staff, hard to handle. The horses are back in sort of sparingly at the moment, but the 10th of January, everybody's back on deck, getting them ready.
You and Joe have put a lot of extra work into Cambridge Stud to updating the wonderful facility. Tell us about the Heritage Centre and when will that be open?
Well, we opened the Heritage Centre with Sir Patrick. He came down with his family and it was a very soft opening. And we just had a nice ribbon it was quite an emotional day, particularly for Patrick and his family, but also for Joe and I. We've put a lot of time and effort into trying to capture Patrick's life, certainly Sir Tristram and Zabel, and the contribution that he's made to New Zealand racing, and Joe and I felt that it's something that we can do to remember his legacy because he is the one and only. No one's done what he's done, and I don't think anybody ever will. So it's great to be able to show that off.
Brendan, for something like that, obviously we would love to get the weigh-in cameras in there at some stage, but for people who are clients of yours or people who breed with Cambridge Stud stallions, are they able to one day come along and make a booking to come see this?
Look, everybody's welcome to come down. It's not open to the general public. We don't want busloads on the way to Hobbiton. So we are trying to keep it a little bit exclusive. When we've asked, Emily actually got in touch and said, could we film it? And we said no. We don't want any cameras. In fact, our daughter was through there the other day and she took a couple of photos. I said, delete those off your phone. You cannot take photos. She goes, yeah, but Dad. And I said, no, but no photos.
If Emily gets a no and your daughter gets a no, that's a definite no for me, Brendan.
Well, look, we'd like to share it, but we'd like people to come down and enjoy it for what it is, which is, is a bit of the past and also a little bit of the future. Probable's 4 Group 1s in the cabinet there, and it's just a nice place to be able to display them, and obviously Hala Usain's Dom Jubilee Cups there as well, and it's really cool.
You talk about Probabeel. This would, I presume, be her last campaign. Her and Carmelas both heading to Melbourne?
They're both heading to Melbourne, and Probabeel probably go on the similar campaign to last year, the Balmain into Futurity All-Star Mile. Carmelas we're not 100% sure about, but we'll probably keep away from the Group 1s with her. There's a couple of nice races for her over there. And the girls travel really well together last time. So they've sort of teamed up together, those 2 girls, our 2 queens. And they're both having a jump out on the 11th of January at Matamata. So we're looking forward to seeing both our girls out.
You mentioned Hala Usain, of course, the other big name you have there is Al Manzoor, and his 2-year-olds are showing more than enough to suggest, as Europe's top 3-year-old of his year, that they're going to develop into classic horses.
They certainly look that way, but what's surprising is the 2-year-old races in Europe, they're running 1,600 metres, 2,000 metres. Gosh, that's hard work for a 2-year-old, but over here they've showed a bit of form at 1,100 and 1,200. Look, we're looking forward to getting our first Southern Hemisphere winner with Al Manzoor, and David Ellis has got a nice colt in the Karaka Millions, and there wouldn't be enough champagne in the bar if that got up, trust me.
Oh, good stuff, and a big thank you to Brendan and Lindsay for taking time to join us on Weigh-In, and really interesting around the Cambridge Heritage Centre. Really looking forward to going and having a little look myself.
No cameras.
Yeah.
When Brendan said that to me, I was quite surprised, but it makes perfect sense. First of all, you don't want a whole busload of people turning up. It's a workplace and a historic place, Cambridge Stud. But what a great idea that they want to share this with people, but get them to enjoy the experience and the atmosphere of it without taking pictures and dulling it down a little bit for other people. So I think it's a wonderful thing. I think people in the industry, once they get through the yearling prep situation, will be able to maybe ask if they can go. I'm looking forward to getting down there too, but yes, unfortunately you won't be seeing it on weigh in, but maybe if you're a friend of Cambridge Stud, you can pop down at some stage.
We had some questions in on the show, Michael, with regards to a proposal by NZTR that we just wanted to tackle. It was Class B licences. They're going to no longer exist under the NZTR proposal. That's obviously training licences. And I know a number of people have got in touch with us on Weigh In about their concerns around this, and that was something you were going to follow up.
Yeah, NZTR are going to take submissions on this. So obviously we have Class A licence, Class B licences, and NZTR wants to make either Class A licences, so professional trainers, or private trainers. I feel for the people in the middle stage, and a guy called Josh Lavelle actually raised this with us, and he has written a very intelligent proposal and submission to NZTR. Now, we had a busy show today. We are going to talk to Bernard Saundry or Cameron George about this and talk to them about what it means and why they're trying to do it, and try and find answers for these questions. But Josh, what you did makes heaps of sense to me. Anything which restricts more people from training is a bad thing, but also professionalism in the training ranks, which everybody aspires to, is a good thing. So they need to find a path where they can keep everybody training here who wants to train, as long as they train at the appropriate standard. Also had a few questions from people. Who's in charge of NZTR? Because the two bosses, Cameron George and Bernard, are both overseas at the moment. Bernard went home to see his family, as many people would at Christmas. The borders changed after that. He is trapped in Melbourne. I work a lot with Bernard. Don't worry, he's fine. Via Zoom, via the phone, he's very diligent. He'll be taking care of business. As we all learnt during the pandemic, you don't need to be sitting next to somebody to talk to them.
Yep, good stuff, and we will endeavour to see if we can get some answers with regards to those questions in the coming weeks. That's just about us done here on Weigh In. It's been a great show, busy as always, and of course next week we'll be back Group 1 racing.
At Trentham, and also a shout out to Chelsea Burden, back winning the last race yesterday at Ellerslie. We had a really tough injury last year, Chelsea. Her first win since she came back on Tanner Hill, so well done to her.
Awesome stuff. That's it from us here on Weigh In. We'll be back with you next week at the same time.